In a move that seems straight out of a divine comedy, Iowa Republicans are taking a tip from Texas and pushing a bill that would bring untrained chaplains into public schools. It's a deja vu moment, echoing Texas's disastrous decision to replace trained social workers with local pastors who lack formal certifications. The Iowa bills, Senate Study Bill 3092 and House File 2073, would allow volunteer chaplains into schools without any licensing or endorsement, potentially jeopardizing the roles of professionals who are actually trained to support these students. The irony is so thick, you can cut it with a communion wafer. As if plucked from a satirical playbook, the proposed legislation could open the floodgates for various chaplains, even from groups like the Satanic Temple. Because if you want chaplains in schools, why not make it devilishly interesting? In the realm of church-state separation, Iowa Republicans are playing a divine game of anything goes for the sake of injecting more Jesus into their schools. This story is from The Friendly Atheist and was published January 26th, 2024. And Erin, let's start out with you. What do you got to say about this story?
Well, I opened up the Senate bill and I read what it has to say, and one of the parts of this new legislation says the board of directors of a school district may employ a chaplain or engage a chaplain to serve without compensation or remuneration to provide support services and programs for students as assigned by the board of directors of the school district. Services? What kind of services do you think these chaplains are going to provide? What might be their area of expertise? Maybe they'll be helping people with their Spanish language skills, right? Or navigate their college options. Or maybe, they'll probably be providing critiques to band soloists, right? No, that's not what's going to be happening here. Chaplains are not specific to religion. Chaplain is a generic term for anybody from any religion who's there to provide services for that religion. And of course, these chaplains, they're going to be in school to spread their message. That's what they're trained in. That's what they're going to be there for. Let's not try and hide this behind services. We all know what services those are going to be. And we don't need religion preached in schools, especially to youth who are vulnerable and susceptible. Children are vulnerable because they believe what adults tell them. They're easily led. And that's why it's so important and critical that we guard what happens in our schools and what kids get taught. Even as adults, we have a hard time thinking for ourselves and not following the loudest, most confident person that's talking. Because of this, what we bring into schools should be as objective and factual as possible. We should be teaching kids how to think and limiting what they do think to things that can be factually proven and that are objective. And religious messages are not objective. They are inherently subjective. If they were objective, there wouldn't be different religions in the world. There wouldn't be different interpretations.
Whoa. You mean to tell me that it's all, subjective? That there's not an actual objective God out there? Or gods? Or, objective, son of God or daughter of God or what? You mean that's not true?
No. Did you know, Phoebe, that there are actually multiple sects of Christianity and Islam and other religions? There's not just
I think we're secretly part of a sect.
Just
here.
one.
Is this a sect? Is this a secret sect? Are the four of us part of a secret sect?
We're the nonprofits sect.
We are the nonprofits. Yeah. So the governments and schools. Yeah. Governments and schools and other public institutions are places where objectivism and facts should be sought for and embraced. Religion and spirituality should be kept in our chapels and synagogues and mosques and temples and homes, in our private places, not in the public. Infidel, what do you think?
An absolute disaster waiting to happen is probably the most generous assessment I could of this situation. As Kelly mentioned earlier, Texas has already started down this route, and the whole idea of replacing licensed, qualified people with somebody who essentially has to do nothing more than pass a background check, a rather precursory background check at that. But it's not like they have training in this. It's not like there's anything fundamental that makes them qualified. So exactly as Erin said, What are they doing? What are they there? I think Representative Hayes, though, that's one of the sponsors of this bill, was rather telling when they used the word minister, quite Christian term. So, yes, we're sending ministers into school to what? I'm guessing minister. Rather telling. I did notice that there was a gentleman, Senator Garriott, who criticized the bill about separation of church and state, and he did point that minister out. Of course, as always, it's I misspoke or anything else, but I do find it telling because just as easily, she didn't just randomly say, we're going to send imams into the school, and there's a reason why it wasn't that. But the good thing is, and here it comes back to something Kelly mentioned earlier, it's great to think of the Satanic Temple because one of the stories that I read, they were reached out to and they were like, yes, we're interested. And you know what? You're damn right. I'm interested in them being there too, because they're going into this game thinking, okay, we're going to have our ministers in your schools. Well, I think they have another thing coming. And so I guess we'll see. I'm hoping this bill's squashed and nothing ever comes of it. But if it does, let the fireworks begin.
It seems to me that this would open the door for secular humanist chaplains, just like they have in the military too. Sorry, Phoebe, go ahead.
I was going to say, welcome to the world of, malicious compliance. And I love it.
Yeah, right.
We discussed on this show book bans and other such things. And now we are having dictionaries and the Bible and the Quran all being banned by these plain places that are passing nonsense or attempting to pass nonsense like what we're discussing here. But we're all getting distracted here by the religious aspect here. And I mean, yes, okay, we're the non-profits, etc. But make no mistake about what this is. This is the removal of social work from education and the weaponization of social workers to be agents of the state. Remember what Texas did with trans children when they were forcing social workers to investigate the families of trans children? This is another attack on the profession of social work being able to tell truth to power. As somebody who was a social worker in a past life, the number one thing you must never be fearful of is who you investigate and the reasons you're doing that investigation. Yes, social workers make mistakes. Yes, social workers aren't perfect. But when they make mistakes, they're held accountable. They have a license to protect. They have a board to answer to. They have a fully funded, salaried position to protect. They have an education behind them, usually a social work degree, usually a minimum number of practicing hours. Make no mistake about it. These bills are designed by people who think social workers are busybodies that are forcing secular humanism and atheism on children and preventing religion from being rammed down their throats. Make no mistake about what the underlying purpose of this bill is. This bill is the dismantling first step of an independent social work profession in the state of Iowa to prevent social workers from being in schools, to prevent social workers from being able to protect children, and to prevent social workers from restricting what are harmful practices that take place in schools perpetrated by the people who are supposed to protect them. I don't trust a religious minister, chaplain, pastor, vicar, imam, as far as I can throw them. Too many scandals have come from religious institutions of pedophile priests, Jehovah's Witness cover-ups, and God knows what else. So what these people are doing is they are taking away the one thing they shout about when they talk about trans people and LGBT plus people and non-heteronormative, non-white people. They are saying these people that we're complaining about are a threat and a safeguarding concern to children, when in fact the true safeguarding concern to children are the authors of this detritus that would be best served as the lining of the cage that my birds live in.
Well, you brought up an interesting thing there, and it was something that I want to talk about, and it was probably the thing that hit me the most, and that was we are opening up the schools to pedophiles. All these people need to do is to pass a simple background test, and if these people have been in the church, and every major church in the United States has had a sex scandal over the last few decades, not a single church has been immune to it, and they have all hushed it up. And if you're just passing these people around and hushing it up, they're not going to show up on a background check. We're not going to know about this. And, you can say, oh, it's a very small problem, that there's not going to be that many people. Okay, that's fair. Maybe.
Small problem, mate. It ain't no small problem.
Well, if you figure, even if it's just 2%, that's out of every 100 chaplains in a school. Two of them are going to be a pedophile, right? 2 of them. Now, Iowa has 1,310 public schools and 328 school districts. And if we only have 1 chaplain per school, just 1, and I'll be generous and I'll say only 0.5% of religious figures have the potential to be pedophiles, that's still 6 or 7 pedophiles. And that's 6 or 7 too fucking many. Now, personally, I don't think the maximum number of pedophiles in the school should be anything above 0. And when you figure in that each school is probably going to have more than 1 chaplain, you're going to have 1 Catholic, 1 Methodist, 1 Baptist, 1 satanic maybe, and every other major Christian sect. So how many chaplains is this going to be open to? And as we keep getting more and more chaplains, we're opening it up to more and more and more potential pedophiles that we're never going to know about, because these people are going to pass these background checks because the church is covering this stuff up. So that's my biggest worry about it. And my second biggest worry was what Phoebe said. This is an erosion of the social workers in the school. And another thing, these counselors are there for these kids when they're coming out, they're realizing that they're gay and they need somebody to talk to, and they can't talk to their family, and they need these people, and they're not going to go talk to the priest. That's not going to happen. So I'm really, really worried about this. It's really, I think it's really upsetting to me. Erin?
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of FUD here, a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and I'm not as uncomfortable. I kind of disagree a little bit with the fiery takes that some of you have expressed.
Hang on a second. I've got a question here for you. I've got a hypothetical here for you. Death penalty advocates say that the death penalty does more good than harm because it has a good success rate. How many innocent men are a tolerance to die for the death penalty to be allowed to continue?
0. I'm not a proponent of the death penalty.
How many pedophiles are we going to allow in schools as a tolerance for this to be acceptable?
It is unacceptable, but you start throwing around the word pedophile, and people get their emotions worked up instead of kind of thinking logically about it. Pedophiles aren't going to be limited to chaplains coming into schools. They're going to be pedophile teachers and people that also pass background checks.
Here's the thing to remember, though. This bill removes the people reporting pedophiles in schools.
It does not replace. It does not. It allows the school districts.
But here's the thing.
It doesn't allow schools to hire more people and bring in chaplains. It does not replace existing social workers.
How much money is going to be diverted from the social workers to the chaplains?
Now, yes, that may happen. That may happen, but the bill does not say stop hiring social workers and start hiring chaplains. It allows school districts to do it.
It's written between the lines that chaplains are a substitute for social workers.
This has been one of the big fears from proponent or people who are against the bill in Iowa too, that as we add these chaplains to the school, we're going to cut funding to the social programs at the school.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's definitely something that could happen. I've seen them cut funding to schools in other ways over the years. We all saw it remember when they started the lottery in the States, that was going to help, that was going to give extra money to the schools. And then what they did is they stopped giving tax money to the schools because they're getting it from the lottery money. And instead of getting more money like they were supposed to, they started getting even less than they ever got.
Yeah.
So I could see this totally happening.
I think that's probably
but it's a possibility.
I think that's probably the bigger risk, actually, is money. Stop sending money because chaplains will fill in the gaps, and then chaplains come in and aren't trained. They aren't there to provide the right kind of services that people that are trained and are certified and are licensed and are accountable, as Phoebe said. I think that's probably the bigger risk is lower funding in schools. And I'm on the record of saying that's not cool. We need to be funding our schools. We need to be paying teachers better. We need better education. I think education is a bedrock and a foundation for a democracy. I agree that all the fears that everybody has are possible. I'm not disagreeing with everybody on that. But I just wanted to be clear: the bill does not say stop hiring social workers and start hiring chaplains.
The bill doesn't need to say stop hiring social workers. Now, here's a question for the three of you on this panel.
Well,
you're a child and you're at a school with a pastor. How many of you are comfortable talking to this pastor?
Well, first, let me say that I would not have been comfortable. And even as a child, I would definitely have not been comfortable, nor my parents, because the religion I was raised in, everybody was going to hell practically. So, those chaplains would have been false teachers. So stay away from them. So even then, they're opening up a door, because it's not like Christianity is some monolithic, one size fits all religion. It's cafeteria style. So with that in mind, I think they don't really realize in that sense what they're doing, but I think you're completely right. Scott, on another episode, a fellow nonprofit, a teacher was talking about on a bill where they were removing, taking money from the federal government to feed kids over the summer. And he was talking about how there are a lot of kids that depend on that social structure, depend on those counselors. It's not just going to school. There's a lot of other things that go along with it. And I think you're absolutely right. What they're trying to do is dismantle that, because they look at this as being an indoctrination of wokeism and whatever else that goes on in their mind, that counselors and people like this are actually the enemy and not the friend. And as long as they do that, they're going to, as you said, they don't have to write it in the bill that we're going to cut funding, because that's inevitable, because there's never enough money, and they're going to always go to the ones that they consider most expendable. And if Pastor Will over there is going to do it for free, why should we pay the council to do it? Well, we can get good old Will, because he's always there when we need him. And what do we know about him? What do we know about any of these people? I've got in-laws who are sitting themselves down in the church in front of a guy who's facing 2 charges of sexual assault with a minor. So the way they live and do their things, even when they know it, they don't see it. Obviously, this person wouldn't pass a background check now, but he was a pastor for 40 years.
We hope he wouldn't pass a background check.
Very valid point. But he was a pastor for 40 years and invited over the local police and had back the blue. And of course, I guess that was kind of awkward when they came to arrest him. That I would have enjoyed. But seriously, these are very real risks, because the people who are in charge of the schools, many of them are going to have that automatic inclination to trust their pastor, to trust the other guy, to trust the good religious guy. He's a good man of Christ. He would never do anything wrong. He's our guy, and he's free. What else can you ask for? Phoebe?
Well, Erin, would you be comfortable seeing one of these pastors if you were a kid in school?
Well, probably, to be honest, because you're taught to have go to trusted adults, right? We tell it to our kids all the time. Go see if you have a problem. Go see a trusted adult. Go see a trusted adult. And when you're a kid, even a teenager, you kind of trust the system around you, that the school's hiring people that you can trust, that the adults in positions of authority are trustable or trustworthy. And so, of course, you would go and see them. And that's, I think, the underlying problem with this bill is they're bringing people into school that really shouldn't be trusted with kids' well-being, school-related well-being. Pastors are concerned with spiritual things, and any issues that might come up in school, they're just not trained for. They're not accountable to anybody for. So unfortunately, I would say probably, and you're just going to get the wrong message from chaplains.
Now, if your school that your children went to had one of these pastors, would you object to them seeing this individual?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. I'd tell them, please don't go see the chaplain. Please go see the school counselor. Yeah.
Kelly, would child Kelly have been comfortable going to see a pastor?
I have a problem because I wasn't a normal kid, right? Would I have trusted the pastor to go talk to him? Yes. Would I have wanted to go talk to him? No. But I wouldn't have wanted to go talk to the counselor either, because I had a kind of messed up childhood. I had PTSD from it for a long time. A part of my problem was that I had a problem talking to authority figures. So I wouldn't have wanted to talk to the minister. I wouldn't have wanted to talk to a priest. I wouldn't have wanted to talk to a counselor or a principal. Anybody who was in that kind of authority figure, I wouldn't have wanted to talk to. But I would have trusted my Lutheran minister at the church where I went to.
Now, what Kelly says there raises another interesting point here. If this is enacted, how many children are going to experience pressure from teachers or peer pressure from others to go and see this individual when they don't want to see them? And I think that is what we should be focusing on here.
Agreed.
We should be focusing directly on what is a school supposed to do. School is supposed to set up a child for the rest of their life. And if you want to see how we set you up for some critical thinking, click here.